exactly what is earth construction? At what point of time did your career take this turn?
To understand and come to the right kind of materials or techniques for Pune. Secondly, in Pune, there were multi-family, residential units called Vadas. Vada is essentially a central courtyard around which there were like 20-25 families used to sit.
All the benefits of earth construction also happening.
That will not happen.
So-called fusion fashion won't happen.
Exactly. It will decide the kind of lifestyle you have. It will decide the kind of relationships you have with your own family members. Like today, we don't get time to, speak to each other, because...
And we've lived with sparrows. And every time in the tiled house, when there is a... I think at least for next 2 generations, my children should live in that. So in that case, how good...
Every 10 years, there is 20% depreciation. So after 50 years, there is 100% depreciation, which means no bank will give a loan to you against that because it has no value. Why that happens?
Welcome to the second episode of Vatsa Padam's Conscious Living podcast. This space is for slow, honest conversations that help us question everyday choices and reconnect with food, skin, land, and the way we live. Our today's guest is Mr. Ar.Rohan Nahar. Rohan is an architect who has dedicated his life and practice to exploring ways of coexisting with nature. Among the many paths towards conscious living, he chose architecture as his medium, using to build environment as a quiet tool for balance and care. With close to a decade and a half of practice, Rohan's work is rooted in value-based architecture, where every design decision is guided by sensitivity to nature and a responsibility to reduce environmental impact we leave behind for the future generation. Mud has been one of his greatest teachers, instilling humility and shaping his approach to building. His work allows people to live gently in closer harmony with the land through alternative and indigenous construction techniques informed by material research, hands-on experimentation, and learning from the land itself. His projects evolve slowly and thoughtfully. Rohan has worked across diverse ecological regions of India, including our own Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and continues to also work with various nature building enthusiasts from Bali and other countries. Hello Rohan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
My pleasure. Let me start straight away. So what happens when we hear about earth construction? Generally people have this small mud hut, fragile, right? So exactly what is earth construction? And for somebody who hasn't heard of this at all in these scientific terms, what is it?
So, earth construction is nothing new. What a lot of earthen builders today are doing is honestly nothing new. Earth construction, basically, we have to understand it in today's context, which means that there is so much of ecological stress. There is global warming. There is depletion of resources. There are wars which are happening, because of the resources, being not socially, equitably distributed everywhere. Mud is on the hand not like that. Everyone has access to it, so everyone can build with it. With so much of stress, on the ecology, it is one of the solutions which can, help us release that stress. Also, mud structures, they are not like, when rains will come, they'll get washed away or things like that. Mud structures today are designed with a lot of precision. There are laboratories that help you understand the behavior of mud. It is properly designed for required strength, required number of floors. And it also is a solution that, has least pressure on, the ecology. It has lesser carbon footprint. It requires minimal processing and it is readily available. So I think in today's context, mud construction is very relevant and it can be taken to a level that it, can outlive the current concrete buildings as well.
Okay. That is actually new, because when you're talking about different floors, different thing, it sounds almost like a concrete building you're talking about.
Correct.
Correct.
So the scalability is there, but of course there are certain limitations in terms of going high rise and everything. But if we can understand and analyze our needs, or even the housing needs properly, then perhaps it could fit in and solve a small part of the problem, which today is faced by construction industry, which is criticized for its huge carbon emissions and everything.
skin cosmetics became our way towards natural living and earth consciousness. For you, it is architecture.
Correct.
At what point of your, either in your studies or in your career, did you think that your responsibility is towards the earth as such? Because architecture is a wide range,
Correct.
from glass buildings to
Correct.
Now the earth construction we are talking
Correct.
about. So at what point of time did your career take this turn?
So architecture is 5-year course. Until my 5th year, I never realized the potential that an architect or architecture could have on the world. So it can either you as an architect can become very famous, or you can be very humble and minimal and do your work quietly. So for me, it started with my internship, which I did with an architect called late architect Nimish Patel. He's no more now, but he always used to say that for a developing country, innovation is a necessity, but it's not a luxury. And we as architects can play a big part into that. Even the celestial architect of the world, which is Vishwakarma, who is supposed to have built the world. The meaning of Vishwakarma itself is a person who does universal action with universal awareness. So an architect by default has a responsibility of taking actions or taking decisions which are by understanding what your actions are going to lead to and what are their consequences. You have to understand that. So for me, when I came to understand all these things, perhaps I realized that there is a small part which I could play. So I never wanted to, work for money, but I wanted to actually, have a certain impact where I feel like, I'm contributing to making this world a better place, maybe for future generations or anything. And today I have a 5-month-old baby. My decisions, actually, I'm so proud of them, because now whatever I'm doing, I'm being very honest. I cannot lie to him. But having him, I know that for the future generations, the work will make an impact. So I think that was my gateway, into eco-friendly architecture.
That's very nice that you're talking, but when we hear, when you come to the baby, I'm thinking right, that the child is most happy in one, and now the child is all the time on tiles.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So it's like when you have the child who's in tiles and the child who is in mud, right? So the general idea is the child in mud is dirty. We immediately bring the child to clean.
Yeah.
And then now the child is in tiles, the child is clean.
Correct.
And the tile is, we use all kinds of disinfectants and clean the tiles.
Correct.
So is this understanding right?
I think so. It is right on many levels, because see, today there are a lot of doctors who are recommending earthing, which means that you have to walk barefoot on grass. The connect that we have, with earth has reduced. There are forms of exercises called movements, which say that if you, let's say, squat and sit, your life is more, your knees are stronger. And if you squat and sit on tile versus if you squat and sit on mud, there's a huge difference, in terms of the strength of the knees and the back and everything. Also, when you walk barefoot on tiles, eventually you're going to develop, certain cracks and all. But if you walk on terracotta flooring, gobar flooring and all, you don't really need to put moisturizers and everything. So this is experienced by many clients of ours, and this is basically a fact. So there is a big difference in terms of that. Secondly, it also leads to humility. When I'll just give you an example that is a bit lateral. If, let's say, it's cold winters and you had to touch something that was a metal or something that was plastic or man-made, you don't feel connected. You can't hold it for long and it feels very hostile. If you are, let's say, sitting on a wooden furniture with, arms made of wood, and if you touch that, it's comfortable across every season and it connects you with nature. So you're comfortable throughout. So right from being physically comfortable to actually, connecting with earth, it has a big impact.
I used to think it is just my mind that is telling me that. So looks like there is science, when the problem is once the wood becomes a furniture, you stop looking at it as wood as such, as a part of
an object.
It becomes an object. So we forget, at least I forget that I am touching wood. I'm actually not just touching my sofa or anything like that. That's
So it's not just that. If you see dogs that are living in apartments versus dogs that are living on farms or outside, the way they walk starts to change, and very easily you can make out that this dog has been raised into an apartment because the floor is slippery. It is not comfortable for them, but they adapt. They have no choice. We make them adapt. So you'll see that kind of change in animals as well.
okay. So in Pune, when we talk about Pune, we have our own kind of soil and the weather. What are the right kind of materials?
So, to understand and come to the right kind of materials and what Pune has been. So Pune essentially is, I was born and brought up in Pune, so I know a thing or two about the city. So Pune is of the shape of a bowl. It is surrounded by hills on all sides. So it is always blessed with water and very fertile soil, that will, that get washed away on the plate and then gets deposited there. So that is one thing. Secondly, Pune was a satellite town for Mumbai. So people preferred working in Mumbai because of the immense opportunities Mumbai offered. But they mostly bought their second houses and they preferred to stay in Pune because it was blessed with really good weather.
Exactly.
You go to Pune in any direction and you'll encounter some kind of a hill, which is connected with the Sahyadri ranges or different kinds of ranges. So Pune was always blessed with the climate. Secondly, in Pune, the housing units that were there were multi-family, residential units called Vadas. Vada is essentially a central courtyard around which there were like 20-25 families used to sit. In Vadas, let's say the grandparents used to sit in the verandas. The women used to come and clean the vegetables or do the preparation there. The kids used to play in the courtyard, and we did not need any CCTV cameras and everything because everyone kept a watch
In the same place.
exactly. And when you came and you had to go to your particular room, you had to cross all the people, say hi, and by default it was a very thriving social unit. Secondly, having a central courtyard was a big benefit because central courtyard brings in a lot of natural light and ventilation. Even in hot weathers, you'll get a lot of cool air that will pass through that.
Right.
So that actually is a blessing, and there are a lot of master architects. Like there's an architect called Charles Correa. He talks profoundly and uses courtyards used to use his courtyards in his designs, wherever possible for the same reason. Because in India, courtyard design is very, important. So if we understand all this, then honestly, we are blessed with a climate that is not very hostile, very comfortable to live in, and most of the materials, can work. However, we should prioritize materials that respect nature, that empower communities, and a material that will have least negative impact on the environment. So initially, Vadas were built out of stone. Or they were built out of brick, or they were the roofs were made out of mud and supported on timber beams, and there were plasters made of lime. Now stone, it keeps the house cooler in summers, but in winters also the house remains cold. So stone has one disadvantage. Mud in this case in winters will make the house very warm. So we studied some settlements in Uttarakhand and Sikkim and all. Wherever they built the houses in stone, in summers they were quite comfortable, but in winters they became very cold. So they have a practice of lining these stone walls with pine wood. Now we in Pune do not have pine wood or anything, but mud is a good material. Brick, plastered with lime also is good because lime absorbs carbon dioxide, from the atmosphere. There's a lime cycle, if you study that, you'll come to know that. And the walls are also breathable. They're fairly insulating. So if we understand all this, we can make most of the materials work, but there are systems like Vastu tells us that if the place of the owner is on southwest, so if the southwest is made taller, the largest heat gain gets blocked on the southwest, and north and east remain shaded. So throughout any time of the day, you can access and use the courtyards, open spaces, and terraces. So there are a lot of hints. So one, having knowledge of the sun path, wind direction, clubbing that with the material and its benefits, I think is the right way. So we can work with bricks, we can work with mud, we can work with wood. So whatever is the material. So generally, if you want to be sustainable, it is not about the material that you use, but it is about how you use the material. You could even use gold and still be eco-friendly, provided you understand, how to use it efficiently and how does it respond.
So from what you're describing, even Kerala's Therwad houses.
Yes.
I'm seeing some similarity
Therwad
with the
houses,
Therwad
Chettinad houses in
houses.
Tamil Nadu.
Right.
So all of them were essentially coated typologies.
Right. But in Therwad houses, what I have noticed is that, because the weather is very humid.
Hot and humid, yes.
Humid. And another thing I found is that they had these windows that are made up of wood. So it used to get very hot inside.
Correct.
Whereas in Pune, we are not humid. In fact, we are very dry.
Correct.
During winters, it is very dry.
Very less humidity.
And what I found, like when I was thinking myself, of this courtyard houses for future and stuff like that, I used to think, what if the house becomes very cold?
Right.
So what is the solution?
Kerala, I worked for 3 years in Kerala with an architect called Eugene Pandal, who has been my mentor in some way or the other. So we were a part of documenting a lot of wooden houses made in Kerala, which had coated planning and everything, right from 300-old to 150-year-old timber houses. We documented all of them. Then we realized that the sloping roofs, the height of sloping roof is more than that of a flat roof. Hot air always becomes lighter. It rises. At top, they used to give openings called gable openings, or there were these terracotta tiles which allowed the hot air to escape. So when the hot air is allowed to escape, it sucks in the cool air. And this is what we refer to as stack effect. In addition to that, there is something called as Venturi effect, where if air is made to pass through smaller openings, the temperature drops and the velocity increases. These principles are seen in Hawa Mahal in Rajasthan and all, where you'll feel that air velocity increases, the air cools down, and these effects. So there are different regions have different detailing. If we understand how to use them, all of them had blessing. But Kerala, even in normal houses, they leave a air gap between, let's say, the slab and the wall. You'll see a small slit which allows the hot air to escape. So what happens in Pune, let's say you come to your apartment after, let's say, 15-20 days, you open that, you'll feel certain kind of humidity and a foul smell.
Right.
But if you create a mesh and allow the air to pass continuously, so you'll not have that.
Right.
So it can be made to work. So that is not a problem.
So from this, what I understand is earth construction. If someone is not able to take it up fully, they're living in a flat, or they're building their buildings in such a way that I cannot take up the entire transition.
Correct.
Then you mean to say that even in the place where you are living with the modern type of construction, you can learn a lot from the principles of
Exactly.
Earth construction and make things better in your existing places.
But that will happen only when you're not looking at architecture as a visual communication medium. So in Kerala, let's say in every household there's at least one person who goes to Gulf, who will earn money and come back. They see something there, and they see something that is extremely obscene. Like Gulf countries are basically 5% of the people of the world who consume 95% of the resources. This is also mentioned in a documentary called Home, where 5% of the people are consuming 95% of the resources. So they make glass buildings. Glass buildings act as oven. In such a hot climate, then you need very heavy amount of air conditioning and everything. Now when these people come back to Kerala, they want to copy that. If you want to do something like that, I think no material will work. Even if you use the best materials, even if you are putting an air conditioner, it will not work. If you have to make it work, you have to be very sensitive on what are the airflows, what seasonal changes are brought, how do you feel comfortable. In Kerala, even the clothing is, they wear a mund or a lungi, and that keeps the people very comfortable. So it is, I think the answer of this does not lie only in architecture. I think architecture can solve only a bit of a problem. The real answer is about, lifestyle modification. If we can simplify our life, simplify our needs, and if we are sensitive and if we are empathetic towards the environment, towards the consumption of the resources that we are doing, I think there are a lot of solutions in any form, whether you are using the conventional materials, whether you are using traditional materials or anything. I think all can be made to work if you are sensitive.
So shall I say, like how we say about conscious living? So shall I say that if you are looking for any solution like this, then your entire perspective has to change.
Correct. It is a lifestyle change that you'll have to bring about.
Right. You cannot think like, okay, I want a Scandinavian kind of a construction here, and then expect all the benefits of earth construction also happening.
That will not happen.
That will not happen. So the so-called fusion fashion won't happen.
Exactly.
Right. So if you are into this, better you go into this most of fully.
When we say you live in mud houses, it is not to say that you give up on your lifestyle. What you have to do is you have to amalgamate that lifestyle properly into your construct, because the way I think we look at houses, it is an enabler. A house is basically it will decide the levels of hygiene that you have. It will decide the kind of lifestyle you have. It will decide the kind of relationships you have with your own family members. Like today, we don't get time to speak to each other, because the husband and wife are working, the kids go to school. Dining is the only time, or the evening is the only time when the family comes together. And your house has to enable those kind of interaction. Your house has to give information to the next generation of how to be sensitive. So if I have done my house sensitively enough, the next generation will be able to learn from that. So the house is not just a mere object that is placed on the land, but it is actually something that shapes your psyche, and it can become an asset, and it's basically like a relic which takes you back in time and gives you some very relevant information about that time, which is a data that you can use today and build upon and decide your lifestyle again.
It makes perfect sense. When I just read somewhere that now we have archaeologists
Correct.
Digging up things and talking about the olden days, what happened. So later, after a few thousand years, if people were to dig us up, what will they find? That's something to think about. Are we leaving anything for them to find?
Yeah.
Of course, we will leave concrete buildings.
Correct.
But what is there to learn from concrete buildings about our life as such? After nature has taken its toll, only beams are going to be left.
Exactly.
Isn't it? I mean, I think like that.
Yeah.
That comes to our next question. People say there is one mud house means this one style, but there must be. Earth construction means one style, right? But earth construction may have many styles, as you said, depending on the place. Give us a few styles that people can be aware of. Okay, these are options available to me.
Correct. So more than styles, I'll talk of techniques. So one, we have to understand when you work with any eco-friendly material, it is subject to entropy or decay, because eco-friendly materials basically exist in nature. They will merge back with nature, deteriorate and go back to nature. If I'm building with mud, let's say I don't want to put any stabilizers or anything else and build with only mud, I can still build a house. I have to make the walls thicker, it will not fall down. The house will not collapse if you have put thicker walls and then you put your slabs and everything. But what will happen in rains, the surface will get some damage, which is very superficial. It is not structural, but there is damage. So this is why in Diwali, we had to have the ritual of, cleaning and maintaining the house. Because after rainy season, there is some damage that happens on the wall. And very beautifully, they made it as a part of the festival or the culture where people start cleaning their houses, do painting and lipai and putai. Gobar and everything. So if you build only with a purely eco-friendly material without any stabilizers, you will have to maintain it, because the nature of that material is to merge back with this thing. So what you are doing is you're just using the material for your lifetime. Otherwise you let it merge back with nature. But with today's lifestyle now, what has happened, we don't have time for maintenance. Maintenance is expensive. To find the right skill of people who are going to maintain the house is difficult. So for this, what we do is we stabilize the soil either with lime, or we'll stabilize the soil with some amount of cement. But we do soil testing in order to reduce the amount of stabilizers that we use. At times, if the soil is too clayey, we'll add a bit of sandy soil to make it less clayey. So one, you need to understand the soil. When you take the soil, it has to be more than 3 feet below, taken from more than a depth of 3 feet below the ground, because the first 3 feet will have organic matter. Now soil takes thousands of years to develop the fertility. So we remove this soil, we stockpile it, and then we build with soil that is 3 feet below the ground. When you take the soil, it is going to be different across all the regions. So one, you have to understand the behavior. Based on the behavior and the ingredients of what is the clay content, silt content, gravel, and sand content in it, then you can decide the technique. So there are certain techniques which are wet techniques. There are certain techniques which are humid techniques and all. So there are, in a way, I think total 7 to 8 techniques. The most primitive of them being adobe or sun-dried bricks, where you have a wooden or steel mold. You make the bricks manually, and then you just leave it in shade to dry on its own, and then you have to cure Cure, that means you have to keep them wet for, like 28 days or so, and then you can use them. Second tech.
It's not burnt here, like
No, it's not burnt. It's not
traditional,
burnt.
like now how we do.
Correct.
Okay.
So burning generally, is, I think, an easy way out, but it consumes resources. It will also, affect it is a bit more processing that we are doing, and energy consumption also will increase. But adobes have been used in historical structures. They will stand the test of time as well. Second technique is mud ball or cob. So cob is a fun technique where you actually dance in the mud, you make balls of mud, you stack them on each
Lot
other.
of videos are there over
Yes,
them in
exactly.
the YouTube. Yeah.
And then you can make thicker walls, you can carve the walls and everything. Our own office, it was built with mud. We in COVID, all the projects were on hold. So we built our office, with a technique called cob, where the walls are inclined. So from inside the wall is straight, from outside the wall is inclined. And in that we have cut and carved out niches in triangular shape and everything. I'll share some photos also. Now, the biggest compliment that our office, it is on a farm on NDA Road. The biggest compliments that we have got are two. One, every 4 months a flycatcher comes and it nests, in the niche. So we keep that nest. We don't throw it away. It uses the same nest, and every 4 months it will come and lay the eggs. Secondly, there was a husky on the farm which was adopted. So it had changed 3 houses. He always came and sat in our office only. We have no doors or windows in the office. Everyone carries their laptop. There is no, sort of PCs or desktops that are kept, because whoever works with us, comes with that kind of a mentality. So point being, cob can give you all these fun things. You can make the walls of different shapes, sizes. You need not follow a particular right angle. You can mold the walls in whatever shape you want. Then there is something called as CSEB, that is compressed stabilized earth blocks. So these are machine made blocks. They have much more strength than adobes or sun-dried bricks, because in machine you can achieve a better compaction. So the density is much more. And what this does is, initially in first 2 techniques you were at the mercy of the artisans who are making it. So let's say if they are not good enough, or they are not serious about the mix, about curing, there will be quality issues. But with CSEB, it came under control, and it can be done manually. The machine can be operated manually, semi-manually, or even automatically. And right from making 800 blocks a day to 10,000 blocks a day, there are people or there are many manufacturers of the CSEB in Bangalore also. Now in Maharashtra there are a lot of plants being set up for CSEB and everything. Then we have rammed earth. So rammed earth is basically, you don't make any block. You have shuttering. You take a humid mix of soil. Let's say you put 7 inches, you ram or compress it manually to 4 inches. So it has to be rammed enough, because when you have a rammer made of steel, if let's say steel is bashed against a hard surface, it will produce a ringing sound. So you ram it till the rammer produces a ringing sound.
Oh, that's where the name comes from.
Rammed earth. Yeah, exactly. Then you have, we recently are working a lot with a technique called mud concrete. Like we have cement concrete, which has cement, sand and aggregates. In mud concrete, we replace a larger amount of cement, with mud, and we reduce the cement barely to 5% or so. Now the strength, generally concrete will have about 10 MPa, 15 MPa, 20 MPa of strength. We have generally 3 to 5 MPa in mud concrete to 6 MPa. It is lesser than concrete, but it is good enough to build, let's say, 2 or 3 floors of structure. In this, what you do, we develop this technique for places which do not have soil but have a lot of gravel or murum. So in that, cement of 5% will act as a binder. The mud also acts as a binder, and we mix it in a conventional concrete mixer. So what this does is, the process is very similar to concrete construction. So if there is a new team, for them it is just like mixing concrete, which is done in a machine. Then you pour it into a mold, and in a few hours you remove the mold and the wall is standing there. So it's very easy. It is not as labor intensive as cob, where you have to make the balls or anything. So this is yet another
and also
thing.
weather intensive.
Correct. It is much more denser. It is self-setting, and it really works. So we are training a lot of teams which are new with this technique. Rammed earth requires a lot of skill. The shuttering can be heavy. The alignment of the shuttering you have to see. The ramming has to be proper. Edge ramming is different. Central ramming is different, etc. But mud concrete is much more forgiving in that sense, and you get strength very easily, but more suitable for areas where you have a lot of gravelly soil. Then you have wattle and daub, where you interweave a bamboo or cane mesh, and on both sides you'll do lime plaster. But in that, what happens is, the bamboo will expand and shrink. So there is some maintenance. So let's say after a certain period, if you see cracks, you have to again maintain and replaster it. But this is seen in a lot of villages. the people use waterland of very often, like Varli village or Dahanu area near Mumbai. They all use these kind of techniques. So it is not about which technique all the techniques will give you the right kind of strength required. They'll enable you to live. They'll give you thermal comfort. But you have to understand the soil, you have to understand the weather, and based on that, you have to propose a technique. Otherwise, we have a lot of people saying that we have seen somewhere that rammed earth wall has those beautiful colored band. So give us that. But the soil suitability also has to be understood. And also the budget. Like adobe, mud concrete are cheaper techniques. But let's say cob and rammed earth, they are quite expensive because the molds are expensive. The amount of work that happens in a day is more, and things like that.
Right. So in South India, or maybe here also, we see these temples, like for example, Tanjavur temple.
Yes.
The temple is there for thousands of years.
Correct.
But the king who built the temple, we don't see much of his palace.
Correct.
So if you see like that, what do you think is the difference in what they did for the temple building and for their palace building, palace or homes?
I don't honestly know how the palace was built. I know the temple, I've visited it. So what older people knew is, whatever material was locally available, because the modes of transport were limited, the machinery that was available, that was limited. Today what we do is material is manufactured somewhere else, it is brought to the site, and as long as it fits in the cost in the given time, so it's become a frenzy of fitting everything in lesser time, and more efficiency of the material and all is brought. So it's become a very mathematical exercise, but for them it was not so. They were literally married to a material. Like in our marriage, whosoever is the life partner, we have to find ways of working with them and find peace with that. So in olden days it was like that. If we have a certain type of stone, they derived the detailing that was very specific for that particular stone, and then they understood. They were very empathetic towards nature. They were empathetic towards the organisms. Even like let's say fishermen, they don't fish in a certain months, because they want the fish to breed. And there are many architects in southern India. They will leave sort of scoops in the land where fish can come and breed. So there was a lot of empathy. Even when I told you that we had nesting from the fly catchers, today on the glass buildings and all, it doesn't happen, because we're trying to ape an image which is not empathetic towards the organism, towards the people and everything. Also, these proprietary systems or modular systems that we see today, they are not designed for a longer life. So they will have lesser life, they'll have a smaller thermal mass, and we have accepted using machines like air conditioners, dehumidifiers and everything, as a way of life. But initially they did not have those options, so they were very sensitive to all these things. So these were the reason they took time to construct. So that is why these buildings have survived the test of time, because if you are working in coherence with nature, you're understanding nature to its fullest, and once you understand that, then you know how exactly the deterioration happen, how the material works, where to take the material from and everything. So I think this was the disconnect between what is being done right now and what is done. The answer is, I think, empathy, and also rather than finding the easier way out, it's like a marriage. I said you have to decide, I am going to use this material only, then the aesthetic has to be derived out of that material. So it can't be forced to become something else.
That's why we don't have sparrows now in the city.
Very relevant.
The sparrows are, nobody knows, our children do not know what a sparrow is basically. And we've lived with sparrows. Correct. And every time in the tiled house, when there is a nest, there are many nests in the sparrows in our roof. And we are always, we used to climb the roof and peep under the roof and see if the nest, if the egg has hatched or not.
Correct.
So that kind of thing is not available now. Of course, the tiled roofs are not available now. Right. So the biggest fear people have is the longevity.
Correct.
We've touched upon it in the discussion.
Right.
But like again coming to Pune, let us say if I'm making one of the methods, right? So when I build a house, I would think at least for next 2 generations, my children should live in the house, right? So in that case, how good can I say, okay, today I'm spending 50 lakh, 60 lakh once a year in building the house. Will I get my worth?
Okay. So I'll approach this question from a slightly different perspective. One of the oldest thriving structures that exist in the world, which was built out of mud, is a mosque called Mosque of Jenne in Mali, in Africa. This mosque was built in 13th century. It is still surviving. It did not use any cement. It did not use any of the modern materials or steel or anything, but it survived. Now, do you say that this material is it has longevity? Now, let's draw a parallel between that construction and construction that we are doing today, which is concrete frame, brick walls, and cement plaster. If you were to mortgage your house built with the conventional materials, every 10 years there is 20% depreciation. So after 50 years there is 100% depreciation, which means no bank will give a loan to you against that because it has no value. Why that happens is because life of concrete is 60 years. So concrete structures will not survive more than 60 years, and they are designed for that life. So after 60 years, you have no choice but to demolish them. There will be debris. What do you do of the debris? No one has thought of that. Vis-a-vis mud construction, mud structures will survive. They can be demolished. You add some amount of organic matter or good bacteria, and you can grow things in it and things like that. So mud structures are actually very they can be designed for a very good life, because there is nothing in the materials that will be deleterious. Like in concrete, what happens is concrete is not good in tension, but it is still subjected to some amount of tension. The tension is taken by the steel that we put in concrete, but after a period of time the concrete will develop the cracks, and the steel gets exposed. It will rust, and that will reduce the life of the building. In mud, we do not have any fear of that kind, but you have to understand the soil. You have to understand its behavior in that weather. So whether you are building in an area that has a lot of humidity, then how do you build? How do you make your structure waterproof and things like that? In Kerala, they have deep set overhangs. They make foundation with inert material like stone. They provide proper dam proof courses. There is a anti-termite treatment, that is given, which is done, organically. So if you do this, there is no question of, life of mud buildings. It is much more than the conventional concrete structures. But there is something that we have to understand, that everyone wants their house to last for generations and generations and generations, like Havelis of Rajasthan and everything. At times they can become heritage but for a person who is just building a mere house, because let's say he might not need a palace, there might not be funds and everything. Do we really need the structures to last that long? In Australia, there are architects like Glenn Murcutt, Richard last year, and many people like that. For them, they design the house for 25 years, because they say that if I build the house for myself or the next generation, then a generation later they do not have the same needs. They might be located somewhere else. So why build for them? For them, sustainability is tensile. For us, we work with compressive sustainability, which means mud walls are good in compression. So we make thicker walls. They work with very slender sections of steel, and for them, after 25 years, all the material should be reusable, and that is the definition of sustainability. So when we talk of longevity, we really again have to question our lifestyle, our decisions, and our family decisions. That do we need the building to last that long? It can be made to last that long. We have to give it that time. We have to understand materials that are local. They'll perform much better in that weather because they're used to that. So if you do that, I think then all these answers will fall in place.
It's a good point, because I saw in Europe, people are stuck with those homes.
Exactly. And how do you maintain them?
They built with these really big stones, and every 50 years they keep changing the interiors. They cannot do anything about the exterior with that.
Correct. Also, there are bylaws which say that kind of elevation you have to maintain, because they want to maintain that character, perhaps for the posterity or for tourism. So there are rules like that also. But point is, I think you can make any material work, but you have to first be very clear what do you really need. So many times when clients come to us, we first ask them a lot of questions and we make them think about, do they really need a house that is that big? So what they want is, they want to reduce the labor costs. The artisans who are working for us, they take a great amount of, we don't call our team or people who are working for us as artisans, laborers. We call them artisans because it's a craft. And when so yesterday only on site we had a lot of issues with a new team. So we asked them that what is the difference between a mazdoor and what is the difference between a karigar? And they told that a karigar works with his brain, He works for passion because he wants to evolve. His craft evolves him and changes something, within him. These were the answers given by them. So the point is, mud has a potential, to do that. And if we, are able to, link that with nature, link that with people, I think the results that we'll have will be, much better.
So when we are talking about construction, what is the difference between the cost in this traditional and in the modern one?
Yeah. So see, mud comes at a meager cost. Also in city, they are doing a lot of high-rise buildings. They're doing malls. They excavate to create the parking and everything, basements. The government says that you cannot dispose your material. You have to use it either in landscaping, and you have to do filling within your site and use it. We can take material almost free of cost. These people are very happy to give us the material that is excavated, because they don't have place to use it, or they throw it along the highways and everything. So the material costs will be much cheaper. But here the cost of the artisans who are actually crafting the walls is higher.
Okay.
And when you build with mud, the money actually goes to the artisans. When you build with other, proprietary or industrial systems, the money is going only to, the people who own these industries or the lobbies. So the cost of mud construction today, I will not say is lesser than the conventional cost of construction, but it is certainly sensitive towards ensuring that the money goes to the people and not to the lobbies, which create a lot of problems. So you can build a mud house at a conventional cost only, and it will not cost you more than that, provided your needs are simple. Like in a house, there are two spaces which have the largest square feet area. One is toilet and second is kitchen. You need to do tiling, you need to do waterproofing and everything. People these days want toilets which are as good as the size of a bedroom.
Right.
Now if you do not, you're going to spend barely any time into the toilets. So if you're okay, you reduce the cost of that, thereby you're not taking the money away from artisans, because see, the material vendors, they will not reduce their costs. So ultimately, if I have to reduce the cost, I have to take the money from the artisans. But on the other hand, these systems enable these artisans to to earn well, because these are labor intensive techniques and they take a lot of efforts. So I think in terms of cost, we can surely build and economize if we, modify our needs, and if we are sensitive to, the people who are building it.
Now, coming to this topic of tiles and all that,
Yeah.
We have gotten used to our modern methods.
Correct.
Like, as you said, tiles.
Correct.
I need geyser.
Correct.
I need appliances.
Yeah.
I need wires everywhere,
Yes.
Wi-Fi everywhere.
Yeah.
So these are the things, like they say, once your brain is expanded, you cannot reduce it, right?
Right.
So how is this convenient in a traditional construction?
See, traditional construction, like I said before, is not about taking away your lifestyle. You can still have your lifestyle. So we have clients who want to build resorts. Air conditioning is not at all required in them, but they ensure that we put at least a point, because to cater to a clientele who's lived all his life, let's say in a humid area with ACs and everything, or it's a part of their lifestyle, you cannot deny it to them. And you cannot make them change, or you lose business. So they make us, put these services. But mud walls can take up all kinds of concealed systems. It can take heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. It is capable of, accommodating the solar and everything. So there is no compromise that you have to do while building a mud structure. The way we do concealed, wiring for brick houses, we can similarly do it for mud also. And any kind of plumbing and, automation also, if you want to bring in, it is possible in earthen homes. So nowhere it is to say that you compromise, because see, you can't change people. All you can change is your ways, or you can say that, okay, this is sensitive and this is the right thing to do. If they don't do it, you just can't change it. But so we do accommodate these kind of systems at to a certain level. Now many times people ask us, why do you build houses for rich people? The point is, with money, this is my personal perspective, and people may disagree with that, but when you have money, you can put the material to its absolute glory. So I recently visited Bali, and I met John and Cynthia Hardy, who started Green School and the Green Bamboo movement in Bali. They have a lot of money. Their structures cost $2,000 a square feet. We are building at 2,000 rupees a square feet. So they are 80-90 times more expensive. but the kind of structures they're able to build and put bamboo in its absolute glory. I mean, it is inspiring for people to know that this material has this potential. So working with people who have demands which could be exorbitant, I only see that as an opportunity. To make other people aware that if rich people are adopting these choices, and why don't you do that?
Right. So is this possible? Like, I do a little bit of my place with mud. Then I use laterite rocks. Then I use something else, some modern glass.
Correct.
I want some glass.
Correct.
So because today, we all want more light. But
Right.
the traditional houses did have a little bit of light issue, in
Correct.
my opinion. I
Correct.
may be wrong. So I want more light coming into my
Correct.
home, right? So is this fusion possible to a certain extent?
It is certainly possible to whatever extent you want. But there was a master architect or architect who defined the architecture of modern India, who is no more, whose name is Achyut Kanvide. He always said that your building don't have to be an exhibition of materials.
Right.
Yeah, more than looking at the building as how it looks, your focus should be what is the experience like. So you have to design for space experiences rather than making the building more bolder or things. So that is at least the approach that we adopt, where we are not worried about the shape of the building, but we are very concerned about how it makes you feel. So just to give you a small example, if you build something that is slightly narrow and make it in wood, people are reminded of the old houses where there were those staircases. It triggers nostalgia.
Right.
So phenomenon like scale, proportion, the psychological impact it has on you can trigger a lot of emotions in you and make you feel a certain things. So rather than trying to fuse a lot of material, we try to use a few materials much more effectively to bring out the right effect. But technically it is possible to do that. There is no structural failure in doing that.
The second aspect I would like to come is in earth construction, we see just a few colors being used, like the oranges and
Correct.
the browns and all that.
Yeah.
So if I want different colors,
Yeah.
what is the option?
So when you do get soil with different colors, so there could be soil that is slightly darker. So there is soils that are white also. There are clay soils that could be grey, from which you make the Ganesh idol, but they have to be stabilized. So different types of soils can give us different colors, but it is not necessary that every region will have different kinds of soil. It's difficult to find it in one region. So a solution for that is one, use of lime. In lime, you could add various pigment. If you want some greys, you could add some charcoal to it. You could add turmeric. You could add indigo, and natural pigments could be added. A very good form of plaster, which is very famous these days, is called arash or tadilat. So it involves a lime with marble dust, and if the marble dust is of a specific color, then you can get that color also. Or there are oxide pigments, and there are multiple pigments that can be used to bring in the colors. But then what we are talking of is basically a plaster. In rammed earth, you could do bands of various color, thereby breaking the monotony of that. But if not that, we can use plasters, or a thin coat of plasters which are almost 0 mm. Generally, we don't try to do thicker plasters, at least in our office, because the thicker the plaster, the more is the chance, the more will be maintenance. Even in cement plastered buildings, what happens is the coefficient of thermal expansion of plaster and the wall is different because they are two different materials with different densities. So over a period of time, the plaster develops cracks, because of which we'll have to fill up some putty and all that, and do the painting again, even in unconventional houses. With mud also that happens. So we generally tend to avoid plasters. If we do plasters, we don't do it of 1 inch or 12 mm. We do it almost in 0 mm, just as a leveling coat or a rendering coat. That has much more, life, is what we have generally observed. So that is one way. Second way of bringing in colors is, you do upholstery. So you have cushions, you have curtains and things like that. You could, bring in colors through that. Or different wallpapers generally, again, will invite some amount of maintenance. So it is not an honest technique to use a wallpaper, but yes, it can be used. There is not to say it can't be used, but you have to be very careful about dampness. The breathability of the wall will get affected the moment you're going to put in wallpapers and everything. And second, another option is tiles. You can have tiles of different color. There are Achanagudi tiles. You can also use techniques like terrazzo. So terrazzo basically is a very old technique where you have cement or resin based or epoxy based binder in which you have marble chips and everything, and then it takes a very good amount of polishing. So you have all these options that can bring in a lot of color.
Okay, so very basic question. When we were small, our homes had this lime, and we used to rub our hands, and it'll all be white.
Correct.
Would that be an issue now?
No. Here generally we use slake lime. It is slake for at least a few days or even few months, and also with when you mix it with either brick dust, which is surki, which is red in color, burned brick dust, or you use it in marble dust. They react, and the wall will become extremely soft to touch, almost as good as marble. And it takes a good amount of sheen also. And these kind of plasters are also used in waterproofing, in the old tankas in Rajasthan and everything. They were all made with, lime plasters with marble dust and everything to make them waterproof. But these are very expensive plasters because they need a lot of time, supervision, and also the skill. You need a lot of skill to do these plasters.
So as you said, all the money that we'll put into this kind of construction goes to the artisans.
Correct.
Rather than
not all, but a majority of it.
Majority of it.
Yes.
So it is a artisan heavy project, labor intensive project, and that is the choice one needs to make. Like if I'm a middle class person, I want to build a house, my choice will come from there, where my big
No, it is not going to be like that because it will be almost at the same cost at par with conventional construction techniques. See, cement, steel are two materials, even glass are materials which are very expensive, the cost of which keeps on increasing only. Mud is not like that. So by avoiding these materials, you're saving the cost. But then you are giving this to the
same cost to the laborers.
So that's why it balances out. So let's say if I was to say that 60 to 70% is the material cost in conventional construction and 30 to 40% is the labor cost. So in this it's reverse. 60% will be your labor cost and 30 to 40% will be your material cost.
So am I right to say that this is not a rich man's toy? It is open for everyone.
Yes, exactly. So it can be. We are working with. We began our practice working with people who wanted to do cost-effective homes. They were not exorbitantly expensive or anything, and you're avoiding plasters. So in the longer run, you're avoiding maintenance. You do not need air conditioners or heaters in this building. So again, those costs you're saving. Plus the health, because of not using ACs, you're continuously adapting to the natural environment and the natural temperatures. So your health is also much better. And if you understand the stack effect, air circuit, there are frequent air changes, you'll feel fresher in these houses. So these are certain things you cannot put in terms of cost. So they are more experience and they add a lot of value to your life and a meaning to it, or let's say a purpose. Because if I build a mud house, I know that this is my first step towards being sensitive, and then all my choices are guided by that. So it brings in a lot more value than money. But you can do a mud house. You can see if you don't do a mud house, your other option is to build with conventional material.
Yeah.
But if you can build a mud house at a similar rate, then why not do that?
So now we spoke about walls a lot. What about the flooring?
So flooring, we can use natural stones like this Kota, Kadappa, Shahabad, which are very rough and tough stones. Even heavy objects, if they fall on that, it's not a problem. They can take a good amount of polish. So you can have them with a mirror polish. You can have them with a leather, finish and flamed finish and things like that. So you have these styles. Then you have oxide floorings or IPS floorings, which is basically gutai. So you can use those also. So we generally tend to use oxide where we don't want to. Generally, these tiles, the size of the tiles determine the scale of the space. If the tiles are small, the space will feel big. If the tiles are big, the space will feel small. So they're actually affecting the perception of the scale, that we have. Now, if you are doing, curvilinear forms, you want to build a house not in the city and not be reminded of the city houses, then solutions like in situ flooring, like oxide, terrazzo, and are very good options. You can get n number of shades. Even in oxide, mineral-based oxides can give you red and black color, which we see in olden houses or palaces in southern India. Now there are chemicals which can give you any and every kind of shade. The chemicals will fade away a little because they are not as heavy as the mineral-based oxides, but there are options that are available now.
Similarly, with the roof in a heavy
rainfall
area like Pune.
Yeah.
What about the roofing?
For me at least, my most favorite roofing is Mangalore tiles, or the terracotta tile roof, for multiple reasons. One, if rains fall on it, it does not produce sound as loud as metal sheets or UPVC sheets would. The heat gain is reduced much. When we put Mangalore tiles, generally we put a wooden sheeting below, or metal sheeting below. Between that there is a batten, and there is 1 inch gap because of the batten, which is basically a air insulation that you have. And also, if your eaves and everything are left open in the direction of wind, it cools the sheet below, and you have very rapid cooling also if the air directions and everything are done. So Mangalore tile roof is a very good solution for heavy rainfall areas, for heat gain and everything. Also sloping roofs, Mangalore tile roofing, the cost is much lesser compared to RCC roof. The dead loads are much lesser compared to that.
So when we're talking so much about wood, termites are the major concern. So are we going to do anything about the termites in natural way? Because in the farm itself we find this issue.
Correct.
Because in Bore area where we have our Bhaktivedanta farm, where we grow our herbs for Vatsa Padam, there our main issue in the farm itself is termites.
Correct.
Because the soil is not very organically rich.
We get this question a lot from clients, and it's a very relevant question. So see, termites basically are very shy creatures. If you have a footfall, or if you are using a particular room and walking in that room quite often, you will never see termites. Whereas even if it's a house made out of the conventional materials, and there is something that the termites can eat or feed on, and if it's not used for a lot of days, the termites will somehow find their way there. So one, you have to, if you see termites, keep cleaning the place. You're not going to you don't have to then worry about termites. But there are lands which are heavily inhabited by termites. In this case, generally we use a organic compound. So in Bangalore there is a company called Osolin that established the company right after independence. It's almost a 50-year-old company. They provide these organic compounds where so wherever the building comes in contact with the soil, so when you excavate to make your foundations or the footing, so on 3 sides of the excavated pit we do that anti-termite treatment. When you build your stone foundations, on all 3 sides of the stone foundation you do the treatment again. When you lay your PCC on the ground for the making the plinth or raising up the plinth, so wherever the PCC is going to come in contact with the soil, we again give a layer of this particular compound. Before putting the tiles you can do it. And let's say you don't know the source of your soil, there could be a chance that the termites are already present in the soil. It's very difficult to gauge that. So in that case, for walls also you can do that, because termites are very, very interesting. Like what they do is, there will be certain termites, if they come to know, okay, there is some food here, this person will go back to the community and bring the whole colony there. They can, what we have learned is, they can stay dormant for as long as 1 year, within the walls, and you don't know, when they will, start, coming in and start making the walls hollow. Another way in which you can address this issue of termites is, one was cleaning, second one was anti-termite treatment. There is also chemical treatment, but we tend to avoid that, because when a termite will be infested by the chemical, several generations of that particular termite are going to be affected by that chemical, and they get killed. And it's not very good, because termites are also making the soil loose, and they're bringing some aeration, and they are basically living organisms. We need to acknowledge their presence on earth as well. So the compound that Osolin makes, it sort of is repellent. It will not affect them. It's almost like getting a upset stomach. It's like that. So that is the way I think you can deal with termites. Secondly, avoid a lot of use of wood. Or if you're using wood, just ensure if you see termites, you maintain and clean it. If you do that, I don't think we have to worry about it.
So we are, let us say we are interested in building more floors. So what is recommended for that kind of?
If you want to go up to 4 to 5 floors, you can do it with mud. Perhaps you'll have to increase the wall thickness at the lower layers and keep progressively reducing it. If you want to go taller than that, then these techniques have to be fused with other materials, like perhaps steel, wood, or stone. In place like Canada or places where you have a lot of recycled wood, they prefer to have the columns in wood, and there are huge structures that have been built with wood. But you have to ensure that you take care of fire safety and multiple things like that. Your behavior of wood and the type of wood that can be used very well. So they have to be fused with certain material. Even steel actually is considered very sustainable, like I mentioned, even by Australian architects and many people who are working with that, because it can be recycled, and steel has a very high strength to weight ratio. So a very small cross section of steel is capable of spanning a very large span. If same had to be done in wood, we needed a very heavy beam. Same with concrete, it will need quite a heavy beam. But steel, you can do it in very less amount of steel. You can achieve larger heights or larger spans. So if you can club these two materials, perhaps there could be a solution that we could find.
So is it right to say that wherever possible, go the natural way, and where some challenges arise,
Correct.
then adapt as much as required?
Correct.
That's exactly what Vatsa Padam believes in.
Yeah,
also.
but see, this architect which I mentioned previously in the talk, Charles Correa, I think before he passed away, he actually did a study saying that for Navi Mumbai, we could build whole of Navi Mumbai without doing high-rise high density. Instead of that, we do low-rise high density. So if we were able to do that and modify our bylaws, which facilitate that, so it requires a lot of policy making and political will as well. So then we could accommodate the whole of the population with that kind of a thing. So one is going high rise the only solution? There's a big question mark there. We have to first understand if that is absolutely necessary. If not, then we can do. The more high rise you go, you're disconnected from earth. You're disconnected from everything. There are heavy wind loads, and your living does not remain as natural as you would like to be. You have to rely heavily on mechanical systems. Even there are refuse chute for garbage disposal, and there are multiple. The energy consumption is only going to increase. But if you're hugging the land, your health is good, your mental well-being is good. You meet more people. In apartments, you just go by the lift to your own apartment, and then you
don't know who lives in the next apartment.
Exactly.
Also.
So there are a lot of benefits. So it again comes back to how much of lifestyle do you want to modify, and how much of the realities are you willing to accept.
That's right. And also, our country is not a land scarce country.
Correct. Exactly.
There are countries that are scarce. They don't have enough land.
Yes.
So they need to use whatever they have.
Yeah.
We are not like that. With good trains and with other facilities, if they can provide, then this is a much better one for everybody. Now, I want to know, we take all the trouble, we find the right architect who knows it, right? And then we use the same amount of money which we would have otherwise bought.
Correct.
And all that. After all this, what kind of changes are you seeing in people's lives in living in these homes?
Okay. So physically, see, you have much better thermal comfort and much better adaptability to the changing weather conditions. So you're much more comfortable living in these houses. And when you're physically comfortable and not at a struggle there, you're mentally also, much more stable. That is the first change I've observed. A very parallel example is in India, we were blessed with, extremely good amount of fertility. We were blessed with very good climate. So we never had to do a outward struggle. Whereas in Western countries, they had to fight even for getting food. They had to hunt, they had to kill, they had to survive the cold weathers and extremities.
Yes.
So that is why philosophically, the kind of saints we have had, India developed a way of looking inwards, because physically, I believe they were very comfortable. They had no struggle on that front, which, calmed them down. Western people, had to face those. Now realities are very different. Even our climates are getting adverse and everything. But I feel there is a direct relation between the kind of environment you are living and into your mentality. Secondly, by choosing to build a mud home, I am taking a decision that I want to do something that is more than my ego, more than my identity, and I'm taking a larger responsibility of being sensitive towards the environment and being empathetic to all the living organisms in the environment. And I'm also knowingly or unknowingly, I'm talking of equitability, equally distributed resources and everything. Secondly, mud walls enable you to have free flowing structures, organic compounds and all of that. that triggers a lot of curiosity even in the minds of kids. Even let's say today there are a lot of people who build second homes, they want to give it on Airbnb and everything. So people are wanting to rent these properties much more compared to the buildings that look like city. So most of the when if I had to select go to a resort, I would prefer the one which is very close to nature, something that takes me back to nature, because that I feel is healthy. I think there is a huge impact on the psyche of the people also who stay in these houses, and there is a conscious decision where you're proud of at least doing the right thing and taking the larger responsibility.
What I came to say is that when I build a house like this, I feel like I am a small person. No, I am a person living in a nice organization of nice things happening around me. Rather than when you mentioned about ego, I was thinking when I build a house, I feel like, see, I have built it. I am the owner of this place. But a mud house will make me feel like now this entire system is there. And I am a part of this system.
And my kids are going to inherit and be a part of this community, which I am a part of, and I have done my given my share in inspiring the people to do it. In addition to that, I also mentioned that these structures allow nesting of birds. They're comfortable for the animals. And we have a photo where when we built a structure on site, there was a dog. The dog always used to go and sit in the mud structure only, and first he used to sit on the heaps of mud because that was complete, that is cooler, and then he used to go and sit inside only. So most of the times we have seen that they feel very comfortable living in these natural homes. So that also brings in the potential to re-establish your connect of recreating an ecosystem and connecting again back with nature on many fronts. So that is another change that you can see in the people who have these houses.
So we are almost towards the end of the podcast. So take for myself as an example. Now our Bhaktivedanta farm is in Bor. So there 4 months of heavy rain, very heavy rain. You must be aware of that. Now somebody like me who wants to now think of building mud earth construction. What are the points I have to look at? What are the questions I should ask you? And what are the things that I should be looking for? Like, what should I get myself ready for to go into this project?
Correct. So the first and the most important thing, I think, is do it only if you are fully convinced to do it. We never try to convince any person who approaches us or who wants to work with us to build with mud. If they want to work with a certain material, we work with that material, but in a very higher level of sensitivity by bringing in more efficiency through the material, through proper testing, understanding the behavior of material and nature of the material and everything. So you have to be honest with yourself and ask if you are ready for this, because it is not going to be an easy journey. It is going to transform everyone who is a part of this project. Secondly, you'll have to be patient in understanding strength, because mud walls will not have strength on day one. They will have the strength after 28 days. They'll have the strength after 48 days, and the strength will keep on increasing over a larger period. So you have to be patient. If there is a small crack, you don't worry about it. You have to understand that this is a part of the behavior of the soil. I'm not saying that there will be cracks, but at times every single project we are working with local soils, the soils are completely different, and you have to understand the behavior. So the process is actually architecture is to be looked at as a diagnostic activity. Like a doctor will do a diagnosis. He will understand. He'll ask you questions. Based on the questions, he'll draw an inference. Similarly, when you have a particular material, you understand the ingredients, you understand the behavior, but at times there could be a certain element which you had not completely understood. So you have to respect the process, calm down, and you have to let the things happen. But you have to continuously be analyzing, okay, what is happening? Am I getting the right finish and everything? And for that, the proper technical people with experience will guide you. Secondly, I think you should be open to the fact that the building might not look as polished, as any other building. It will have its own aesthetic. So don't force it to be something else against its nature. So you have to accept the aesthetics and the vocabulary that is developed, and that also gives your house a unique appeal. So every soil is different, every technique is going to be different. Even in rammed earth, we have seen 4 to 5 types of variation. Certain people put stone aggregates into it, certain people put smaller boulders as fillers into it. So at times the boulders are also shown on the surface as an aesthetic. So there are a lot of possibilities that can emerge. So I think it is all about having patience and being honest and truthful with yourself, because a smaller thing will happen here and there, and the whole balance of the project collapses and it will disturb.
And have faith in your architect.
Yeah, but it has to go both ways. I have a responsibility to earn your faith and trust, by addressing all the questions very patiently, calmly. If I don't have the answers, I have to go to the laboratory. I have to say, see, we are facing this issue, and we have to again. So it is about being diagnostic in every possible sense. Then only, because if I am lying to myself just for getting your project and money, I'm going to run into a lot of issues. But at every bit of time, if I am backing up all the data that we are providing you with proper test, understanding the behaviors and everything, I don't see there is any problem.
Now, my final question, many youngsters, if they're watching this and they get interested, one thing is people like us would be interested to make the house ourselves. But there may be kids who are interested to take up architecture and to this line of architecture. Please give your some guidance to them, so that if they want to move this line in architecture, in their studies, how they should move from day one of their studying, how they should move towards this kind of field.
One, before addressing those who want to take architecture, I believe everyone has a role. Like Vatsa Padam has approached sustainability in a certain way. There are people who are doing rainwater harvesting. There are people who are improving the quality of soil. Everyone is relevant and required. So it doesn't matter which profession you are in. You can make a huge, even people who are in media can actually influence people in a much better way, and they can take up a huge responsibility, by connecting like-minded people, ensuring that, the people are always hopeful rather than showing all the news that are, about wars and wrong things and everything. So I think everyone and every profession can contribute to it. In architecture, it actually honestly is a very tough profession, because if we see salaries today in cities like Pune, you begin with a salary of like 12,000 and 15,000 rupees. After 3 years, on an average, most of the firms will be paying anywhere around 30 to 40, at the most 50,000. If let's say there is a burden on a male, per architect, to provide for the family, marry and everything, you're not going to initially get packages, because there is no replacement for experience. So the first 5 to 10 years are going to be a lot of struggle, because you'll not make a lot of money, but you'll earn a lot of knowledge. And if you have faith, eventually money will come. Now, what do you do then is, one, you have to modify your needs. It requires a lot of lifestyle modification for you to stay that humble, survive in that amount of money that you're getting in. But you have to be in the right atmosphere. The quicker you realize that this is the kind of path I want to take towards architecture, then you can, achieve success very easily, because the more clarity you have about what you want to do, it will help us. But there are people who will have a lot of financial obligations. They might have taken education loans. They might have certain, obligations towards their family. For them also, architecture has a way where you start doing, BIM, that is building information modeling, digital architecture and things like that. So there are architects who are doing core design, and they outsource the actual working drawings and estimation and everything to other architects. So if you do something that is perhaps not so creative or core design, I think very easily you can make money. I have a student who is working abroad, perhaps in Boston. His work is only to design plumbing system and the layout of pipes, so that the cost of pipe for a skyscraper reduces. And he's literally earning 3 to 4 lakhs a month. So there are ways of making money, but you need to have clarity of what you really want to do. Because I feel architecture is not a profession which you take because you want to earn money. It is there are 4 professions in the world. I don't know if you know of that. CAs, doctors, lawyers and architects. All 4 need license to practice. All 4 have a very rigorous screening. Though architecture does not have any rigorous screening test at all, but they are basically consultancy based profession which have a social obligation, and a very high level of ethics is required here. So to start a consultancy, you don't need a lot of setup or anything. Even if you're a doctor, initial level, you need not have all the machinery, but you can still begin a OPD, you can go places. So there are ways in which these work, but they have a social obligation. So if you are choosing any of the 4 fields, you need to understand that you are going to affect the whole ecosystem. And if you want to take the responsibility, these professions will bring you a lot of money when you have a lot of experience and faith in your work. When I began with eco-friendly architecture, my own family was saying that why don't you work with builders? I had education loan. I came from a lower middle class background and everything. But then I did 3 years of my job in Kerala with architect Eugene Pandala. I used to get a normal salary in which I could be just able to survive. After I came back to Pune, I had learned whatever I could from him. So I came back to Pune. I did not have any project then. So I got into teaching because I didn't want to work, with the conventional architects. And teaching gave me buffer. But in teaching also, I chose my role to develop things hands-on. So right from how to cut bamboo, how to build with mud, I started taking workshops for a college. I taught in college for 11 years, and just last year I stopped teaching because the projects are now all over India, and I need to and also I had a baby on the way, so I had to simplify my life. But these are the ways in which I did not have to compromise with my values. Through teaching, I started meeting experts. It gave me more time to read and develop more faith into this. So I kept having that faith, and today I think it's paying off quite well. Now we have opportunities abroad. So if you have faith, patience, and if you're okay to modify your lifestyle, you can stick to whatever value system that you appeal. But having that clarity of what you want is important.
Wow, this has been such a productive discussion, right? Like if anyone who wants to start in this line to build or to study, this should be a first stepping stone. I'm sure this is going to help a lot of people, right? Including myself. You have a client in us, right? Including myself. So thank you so much. We've had such a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
I'm glad I could share my 2 bits here.
Thank you. And you want to get in touch with Rohan, all the details about his contact, his social media, his website is in the description below. So please feel free. He is in Pune, but he works all around the world. So you can get in touch with him and get mentored by him. Youngsters can get mentored by him. Of course, we are going to take more of his time from his little one, but I'm sure he'll be able to manage and give us. Thank you so much. The small token from us. I did not know about your baby. Otherwise, I would have got something special for him.
This is special. I mean, this means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.